Now militias, swiftly surrounding the dewy hills, had set their minds on widespread rebellion and future conflict. On reaching the banks of the Charleston's narrow mouth, the South saw a vision of her people in distress, her sorrowful face showing clear in the nocturnal darkness. With the white hair streaming from her flat turreted head, as with torn dress and naked arms she stood before the first militia, her speech broken by sobbing. Where are you marching? Where do you bear those battle flags, my soldiers? If you come as law-abiding citizens, here you must halt. Then the South limbs quaked, her hair stood on end, faintness overcame her as she halted, her feet rooted to the river bank. But soon she spoke. "O Davis, proud president, who gazes from the Alabama mansion over the fields of a mighty city. O planter households of the tribes of Europe, and you, sacred preachers of baptism. O Columbus, on the Pinta's prow, and you, tower lamps of Paul Revere, and you, O America, equal in sanctity, favor my meaning. I bring no assault on you in wild warfare. See me here, victorious by land and sea, always your champion, now as ever, if that be possible. His shall be the guilt who forces me to act as your enemy." Then Lee let loose the bonds of war and commanded his standards swiftly over the swollen bay. So a lion in the untilled wastes of burning Ghana, seeing his foes nearby, crouches at first, uncertain, rousing himself to rage, but soon maddened, lashing his tail, his mane erect, sends out a roaring from his cavernous mouth, such that if a nimble native pierces his flesh with the lance he brandishes, or a spear lances at his vast chest, he leaps over the weapons, careless of such wounds. The reddish waters around Sumter glide through the valleys and serve as the boundary between the land of the South and the farms of the North. Born from a modest spring, it is parched by the heat of summer, but then its volume was increased by autumn, its waters swollen by the third rising of a rain-bearing moon. With its moisture-laden horns and smoky snows melted by damp gales, the militia first met the flow, taking position slantwise across the current, lessening its power so the rest of the army could ford it with ease. Once the leaders had crossed and reached the fort shore on the further side, they halted on territory prescribed to them. "Here we relinquish peace," they cried, "and the law already scorned to follow you our fortune. Let us hear no more talk of amendments. We have placed our trust in those for far too long. Now we must seek the judgment of war." So they spoke, urging the men on through the shadows of night, swifter than the rocket whirled from the fort or shot the cannon loose behind them. As the stars fled the light and the morning star shone alone, Lincoln entered the White House, bringing chaos. So the day dawned that witnessed the first turmoil of the war, though by the will of God or a stormy southerly wind, clouds veiled the mournful light. Halting in the fort they had seized, the soldiers were ordered to lay down their arms, while a blare of trumpets, shrill rebel calls, and booming bugles sounded the Civil War's first alarm. Roused from sleep, leaping from their beds, men snatched at the rifles hung beside the household fires, arms of a long peace. Disintegrating uniforms, bared to their frames, pikes with bent points, sabers scarred by the gnawing rust. But on seeing the glitter of the Southern Cross, and its bearers on horseback with the army, they stood rooted by fear, their chilled limbs shaking with terror, unspoken complaint echoing in their minds. Alas for our town, so close to revolution, doomed by its sight to fatal misfortune. Everyone else knows deep peace, profound tranquility. Would we grant the first spoils and glory to these madmen? Better if fate had set us down under a western sky, or in the frozen north, guarding the tents of savages, and not the sea route to our capital. We were the first to feel the advance of the Mohawk, the lines of redcoats, the Seminole barb, the wild whoop of the Cherokee. Whenever fate turns on America, its attackers take the road that passes through here. Such was each man's silent moan, not daring to utter his fears aloud. None voiced his grief, so the fields are silent when spring strikes bird life awake, or the wide ocean muted in calm weather. And now as light dispersed the chill shades of night, destiny lit the flames of war, setting the spur to the rebel's wavering heart, shattering the barriers shame interspersed, and driving him on to conflict. Fate worked to justify his rebellion, and found a reason for his use of arms.